Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 189 of a year of change. Today we are ending another week and this is pretty much going to be the last day, well, not the last day, but you know what I mean. The last day of us focusing on fat. We've done sodium, we've done fat for 4 weeks each, and so tomorrow we'll start in on sugar, but I just sort of wanted to wrap this week up and sort of go back over the past 4 weeks and see what we've done. To see the changes that we've made. And I've run into a couple of snags with that, but I'll get to that in a second. So, not a lot actually has gone on this week for me to really update you on. I have made a little bit more progress, which is nice. I'm going to talk about a couple of things first. One is, we'll get rid of the sodium and the fat first. So, sodium levels. I went through, and each week I generally will take a look at what my levels are and trying to get below that 2300. Haven't quite made it. But I wanted to do a comparison to see where I am now compared to where I was 3 or 4 months ago. So what I did is I took the average for the past 4 weeks and then compared that against an average from the entire month of April. So 5 months ago, roughly. Well, almost 6 months ago. Well, no, 5. 4 and 9, and it's almost October. Anyway, 5 months ago. So here are the numbers. Now, this month, of course, where we've been tracking everything, including my extra salt usage, which, by the way, I do need to show you. I was going to do this tomorrow, but if you remember, actually, I can show you a picture. This is what my salt shaker looked like a month ago. And if you remember, even before that, it was a little bit higher. After a month, it was down like, whatever. Because I had filled it up quite a while ago now. And I really wanted to sort of curb my use of it. And because normally I would go through probably half of my salt grinder in a month. So that is what my level looked like then. This is what it looks like now. It's pretty much the same. I actually have only used this, I would say less than 10 times. I'm thinking the number of turns has been probably less than 30. So I've used less than a teaspoon over the past month. So there we go. There's a nice comparison. So anyway, that's progress, a little bit at least, that I'm eating less salty stuff. In fact, yesterday, I thought, okay, I wanted something salty for a snack, and I thought, I'm going to go, not exactly healthy, but healthier, and I got some cashews. Which I found out that a couple of handfuls of cashews, I didn't add them up until later. It's a lot of calories, about 800 calories worth. So, over the course of a day, not all in one sitting. Anyway. I found that I got the salted ones. I thought, okay, I'm going to go over with my sodium. I know that this is going to put me over, but I want to have something really salty. Just had a craving for it. Can't do it anymore. It's far too salty to the point where my tongue is burning. Even this morning, it's still kind of, which is weird. Anyway, so that's one of those. I now know that I can go and I can still buy fruit and nuts and things like that, but I can't get the salted kind anymore. I'm just not used to it, which is sort of a good thing. It's where I wanted to get to. I haven't tried chips yet, but I think I'm going to probably avoid those. So just kind of, because I don't really crave them. I don't need them. So, the other thing is actually, no, I should do my numbers. So for sodium for the past 4 weeks, I did an overall average rate from to today, or till yesterday, anyway. And the month-long average is a bit over. My number is 2,459 milligrams. I'm trying to get around 2,300. So I'm 160 milligrams on average over what I should be, which is not bad. Considering that it's tracking everything. I'm actually tracking sodium, I'm tracking how much salt I use, condiments, everything. So what I wanted to do was to sort of compare this to where I was a few months ago. So I took the entire month of April, and I did an average on that. Keep in mind, this is back in our first couple of months. We were tracking condiments, I think, by week 4 or 5. But we weren't tracking fluids. We weren't tracking, a few other things. And I wasn't really paying attention to the sodium and the fat or anything else. My average, and this is before I was actually even tracking my salt intake, because back in April, I would still put salt on everything. I mean, I would go through my salt grinder in a matter of a couple months. So I couldn't even imagine what the numbers are there. So not including the extra salt that I've been using. The my numbers for April, so this is 5 months ago, roughly, 3,506 milligrams, not including extra salt that I'm putting on my food. So at least I know that is it's progress. And I know this week has completely thrown everything off because, and this is probably going to go with the fat as well, because I broke down and I bought hot dogs. So, and you can't have hot dogs without mustard. So, and there's a tremendous amount of sodium in that. No calories, but sodium. Anyway, not an excuse, just explaining. But it's still, that's still 1,000 milligrams less than I was 5 months ago, assuming I'm eating the same amount of salt, which I know I'm not. I would put, at least another 2 to 3 teaspoons of salt a day on top of that. So, multiply that number by 4. My original number. So, I think I've made quite a bit of progress, which is really, really good. And hopefully, we're all doing the same. For those of you out there that are salt junkies like I am, it's been a really rough road. We will eventually get there. I think 24.50 isn't bad. We've been doing it for 2 months, but compared to where we were, even 2 months ago, probably I should have done that, is quite a bit. Now, my fat, this is where I ran into a bit of a snag because, my fat, not for the numbers necessarily. My fat, we're trying to hover around 30%. And in general, it's been fairly good. I took an average this month and I am a bit over. I'm around, I'm 33% fat. I'm more percent fat than that. My diet is 33% fat. Again, I think it's because I've added in cheese and mayonnaise for hot dogs this week, which has thrown this week off, but not enough really to affect that. So it probably is fairly accurate, around 33%, which isn't great, really. Could be worse, but not exactly where we want to be for the end of the month, especially where we've been really focusing on this. However, and comparing that to April, which I never really had too much of a hard time with fats. In April, the average was around 35%. There was 1 week in April, it was 42% fat in my diet for an entire week, which is fucking crazy. Anyway, but the main thing with the fats that we've been focusing on, this is where I ran into the snag, is that we've been exchanging the unhealthy fats for healthier fats. That's where the difference lies. So 33% is not good. I need to bring it down another 3%, down to 30, roughly. But the stuff that we've been eating has been healthier. We're going for nuts instead of, potato chips. Or we're going for more vegetables, like the avocado that we did a couple of weeks ago. Comparing that to getting a really fatty pork chop thing. Changing to the soy stuff instead of milk. Just little things like that. So the fat content itself is going to be, I tried to go in there to find it. But itchy nose. Blah, 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 blah. All right, we're good. So I tried to go in there to find that to sort of to figure out, okay, well, let's compare the unsaturated with the saturated. MyFitnessPal isn't doing that. I don't know what it is. I went through and it's registering for the past month. I have had 0 unsaturated fats through the entire month, which is weird because I can go into the avocado and I can take a look at it and it shows monounsaturated and polyunsaturated and everything else, but it isn't registering any of it. So I don't have any numbers for you. I feel like my eyebrows are all out of whack because I went like this with my face now. All right. So so that's where I'm running into a problem with that. So I can't really gauge where. It's just registering everything as saturated fat, which is really weird. It's saying 100% of my fat intake is saturated, which is not right. I know it's not right. You know it's not right. So it's one of those things that seems to have failed us. But the fact that we're eating more fruits and vegetables now, we're eating, oats and nuts and everything else. Remind me to tell you about the oat thing as well. We know that we're getting it from healthier sources. So the saturated and unsaturated, I'm not sure how to reconcile that yet. Because MyFitnessPal isn't really tracking it all that well. So we're still going to hover around 30%. You're going to have to use your best judgment. And we're very good at lying to ourselves, so really be honest and look at it and say, okay, I know where my fat intake is. I know I'm eating too many saturated fats. Pay attention to the labels, stuff like that. So overall, more impressed with the sodium progress that I've made than the fat, unfortunately. But I think this was actually, this month was it's been a rough month anyway. I've been sort of slacking off, which is not great. I was still below my calories, but there was a week there where I wasn't eating healthy at all, and just sort of lost progress and had to sort of make up for it. Anyway, that is our progress for the past month. So starting tomorrow, we're going to be starting in on sugar. So there's a reason why I'm sort of giving the whole average thing out now instead of tomorrow, which is when I would normally do it, because I really want to focus on sugar because it's going to be a really tough one for a lot of us. Anyway, so that is the update for the week. Now, a couple of things that I want to bring up. Number one, the oats thing. I bought a bunch of oats, and it's one of those things that I thought I'm going to try to go more towards that, because I do like the cereal that I buy, but the oats I can sort of maybe control the sugar a little bit more. And I had someone mention this, and this isn't really news to anyone but me, apparently, that instead of going, like the majority of us, when we think of oats, we think, okay, we're going to add like sugar or syrup or chocolate or nuts or something sweet to sort of get us going in the morning. But there's apparently this new thing going on that they're saying, well, we're going to try savory options for oatmeal. So you're adding things like curry and spices and different herbs and things like that to it, and so it's not sweet, so it's more of a savory thing. So I'm going to try that as well. Maybe we'll do that on a Wednesday if it goes well. I've got a bunch of different things I'm going to try. I even saw one with curry, like curried oats, which it sounds weird, but I haven't tried it, so I can't really speak to it yet, but that might be something I'm going to try. But the other thing is I had a sort of a mental milestone, and then my exercise that we'll get to. The exercise, we'll do that first, actually. Over the past few weeks, because I've been gradually increasing the incline, or I was gradually increasing. I just spit all over the place. Increasing the incline to my treadmill. It got to a point where I was sort of hunched over and causing an issue that way, so I brought it back down, and I started doing it 5 times a day. I've been doing 25 kilometers a day. I've been doing it 5 times a week. So I'm doing a 5K every weekday. Ooh, very loud car. So that's what I've been sort of going on. And I've been adding in there in my Fitness Pal. I've been creating a new one each week that at regular intervals. I started at 20. Then I jog for 1 minute. And I went down to once every 19 minutes, then once every 18 minutes, and 16, 15. So this week I've ended every 15 minutes I go. So starting next week, I will be doing one every 14 minutes, which means that I'm no longer doing 3 intervals. Like I'll run for 15, jog for 1, which brings me up to 16. So then I walk for 15, which brings me up to 31, jog for 1 minute, which brings me up to 32, and then 15 brings me up to 47, and then jog, which brings me up to 48. And then that leaves 12 minutes, so I don't have to go any further. But the 14 is going to be 14, 28, or 14, 29, 44, and 59 for those intervals. So it's going to bring in a 4th interval. So what I'm trying to do is gradually get to a point, and we talked about this before, where I'll be able to sort of jog the 5K. The only thing is that I found that, especially where it's become a daily thing, that I'm eating the same amount. Like if I'm going over that 1,800 calories, which isn't necessarily bad, because if you are exercising, you should be eating some of it. I do sort of want to get back to what I was doing originally, which is cutting back on the amount I'm actually registering. So that when I say that I do 1 hour at 5 kilometers, if it's 700 calories, then I want to bring it back to 6, and then 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. And I was thinking about, because I was doing that before and it seemed to be working out rather well. And I sort of wanted to bring it down, just start not counting it at all. And just add that in there. I can use the exercise and at least register that I'm still doing it and say, okay, not counting that towards my calories for the day. And in general, it probably would work. It's one of those things that, I should be going slowly. But because I revamped the whole thing, I stopped doing it. So I think I'm going to start doing that this week. I'll try that with 0, and if I find I'm starting to go over, then I either need to tweak my food or tweak the amount that I'm drinking a lot of coffee as well, so I need to sort of tweak that. But the main thing, my little mental milestone that I had this week, which was really, really odd, and this isn't going to seem like much to many of you, but to me, it was one of those moments. And I was talking with a coworker. We were talking about something. Can't remember what it was. And inevitably, it went towards food. And there's a donut chain in Canada that they have a sour cream glazed donut, which is the best donut ever invented in the history of anything ever. And back in the day, it wouldn't be anything for me to go and get a half dozen or a dozen donuts and just eat them by myself. Even though I'm not a sweet person, you can't just go buy a donut. So we were talking back and forth and stuff, and when you get that, when you're talking about something and you go, oh, that would be really good, I would like one. And that, what I just said is actually the point, that it was the first time that I realized we were talking back and forth, and I said, oh, I really am craving one. And I mean, there's one of those chains. I didn't get one, but there's a chain just like across the street from work. I could have gone. It's open 24 hours. And I thought, oh, I really, really would want one. And it dawned on me that in my head, I was actually picturing a single donut on a plate. And again, this doesn't sound like much, but it's one of those things that it registers in your head that you're thinking, I'm really craving something. I hadn't really eaten. I didn't eat well at all yesterday, or this was Thursday, I guess it was. But I didn't really eat well at all. I just didn't have time, so I had a really shitty breakfast and then didn't eat all day, which is not healthy at all because it's going to throw everything out of whack. But it was one of those things that I'm just really, really, really hungry. And still in my head, I was picturing a single donut, which is weird because normally you would just think, okay, well, I'm going to go get some donuts and I'm just going to eat them all. So having that moment where I'm thinking of a single thing, it sounds so odd when I say it out loud, but it really is sort of something that made me feel good. That I'm to a stage, I'm hoping, I'm always wary of going, am I just sort of thinking I'm at that stage? I'm going, oh no, I'm all happy to be healthy and stuff, and inside my head I'm just lying to myself. But I think it's legitimate anyway, that I'm to a stage that if I think of something that not necessarily is bad for me, but just really, really something that I probably shouldn't have, but that I can if I want. If I have enough calories for the day, I could have and I did that day, I could have very easily gone and grabbed the donut. But that I'm thinking of things in much smaller quantities. Because overeating was always my main thing. That's, more than eating too much junk food or not necessarily too many salty things, but just too much junk food in general. Mine was always overeating, just the quantity of food. So to be able to have a really strong craving over something that I really, really enjoy, but still just picture one and think in my head, oh, I could have a donut and it would be good. And not think, and then I would have another and another and another and another and another. I think it says something. So I don't know what it says, but it's something good for me anyway. It's one of those things that you just think, oh no, that donut was really good. I really enjoyed it. And now I need 5 more. And I'm not exaggerating. And I explained that to my coworker as well. That and she said, no, you would never eat a dozen donuts. And I said, yes, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not I'm not trying to be melodramatic. Because I've done it. I've gone and I've bought a dozen donuts, come home, and just over the course of a few hours, they're gone. So within a day. And it's just the majority of them would have been the sour cream glazed one. But anyway, it's one of those things that as I say, I didn't end up going to get it because I always think, oh, it would be really, really good. I think I probably shouldn't, so I won't. I know at some point I'm going to. If I'm just out with a friend or something, I'm going to go for a coffee, and I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to grab a donut. It won't put me over for the day. It's not the healthiest thing, but again, we've talked about this, that we still need to stay practical. So you can have a donut once in a while. The fact is that we were going and having half a dozen. That's a new number. Half a dozen donuts, every day. We simply can't do that anymore. And we shouldn't because it's not really healthy for us. The amount of sugar and everything else that's in it, it's just bad. And we always have known that. Like, it's not anything new. They're going, oh, I didn't know that these were bad. Just getting out of that habit. But having my thought process change to the point where if I'm thinking about something that I really, really want, but I'm thinking in a normal quantity, was a big sort of nice little moment for me. May not seem like much, but for me, that is right up there with, as odd as it is, right up there with hitting that 50-pound milestone. Was having my head to a point where I can think, oh, yum, one donut. Because I've heard people say that before, and you think, you're not just going to have one. That doesn't make sense. Like having one cookie, or one donut, or one double quarter pounder. But yeah, it was a nice little, I feel good. Anyway, didn't end up going to get the donut. So, ended up doing the cashew thing, which has torn my tongue asunder. So it has not been great. Anyway, that has pretty much been the week so far. I'm going to tweak my treadmill thing. I'm probably going to take a week. I'm sort of running into that danger of doing too much too soon. But in general, I looked at how much I'm actually eating. I'm still staying below my goal every single day for calories. But when I go and look at just the flat number of calories, I am over by about 200. So I'm eating around 2,000 calories a day. I'm walking, so I'm burning off 700 of those. So I'm still well below. But I think I'm going to I still want to be able to track so that you guys can see that I am still actually using my treadmill. But I'm not going to, I can't talk at all. I'm not going to include how many calories have been burned. Because it's been off anyway. I've been putting down 700, but that's assuming I'm just walking at a regular pace for an hour. I'm not doing the jogging thing, which isn't going to make a big difference, but enough anyway. So I think it's just going to be easier because I'm recreating it every week. I think it's just going to be easier for me to go in and say, okay, I've burned X calories or 0 calories doing the treadmill for an hour. Because I sort of want to get back to where that is. And if I find that it's too restrictive, that it's too much too soon, then I will tweak it then. I know I'm going against my own advice. Maybe I'll start at 500 or 300. Maybe that's what I'll do. You know what? I'm going to follow my own advice. Because you know what? I think it'll be fine. But talking it out... it's one of those things that I think, no, you know what? Take your own advice, keep things slow, don't jump ahead, because we've made really good progress. We know what we're doing is working, so keep with what's working. So here's what I will do. This week, this past week, I've been just putting in 700 calories. It's like 708 or 9 or whatever, but I've just been putting in 700. So this week, I'm going to start pulling back a bit, and I'll say it's 600. We'll just do it at 100 calorie increments. That's what we'll do. And if you're doing the same thing, if you've been doing treadmill or whatever you've been doing for exercising and you have those extra calories in there, feel free to join me. We aren't actually going to get back into changing exercise stuff until we're done with the food stuff. Because the food thing is really, exercise is very important, but we are doing it. So we're okay. We're going to leave that where we are. We've done fat. We've done sodium. Next is going to be sugar. And then we'll start working on the 3 good things, the protein, carbs, and fiber. After that, that's probably when we're going to start focusing more on the exercise, because the food really is the most important thing for us right now. So once we get to where we need to be food-wise, we'll come back to the exercise. You are still doing it, I hope. But even if you haven't increased the amount that you're doing, we're still in a routine. You're still doing it 3 times a day. And, even if it's just walking at a regular pace, and not burning a whole lot of calories, you're still doing something. And that's the main thing, which is giving us progress. So, anyway, I have gone on way too far. I was expecting this to be very, very short, but apparently not. Anyway, so I think that's it. We did donuts, oats, which we'll talk about probably some other Wednesday. You'll see how well it goes. And a history comparison from a month. Did the salt shaker thing, the salt grinder thing. Yeah, that's it. I think that's it for the week. So I'm going to leave this here. So tomorrow we're going to start in on sugar, which is going to be a really tough one for a lot of us. It's something that we're probably going to see some drastic changes in numbers as well, just because there's so much stuff that we got to go through. But we have 4 weeks to do it, and I might actually extend it out if we need it, just because it is very, 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 very surprising, some of the stuff that I've done. Anyway, for now though, I'm going to leave this video here, so thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.